We are about to get started in the next minute or so. Teran, I just asked to join the meeting that you sent me. Is my screen visible on the meeting too? All good? Great. Nice. Okay, everyone. So for this next part, I hope you have the Sui CLI already installed. We'll work a bit with, we'll interact with Sui through the CLI. And we'll see what capabilities we have through that. It's a really crucial tool that you need to use when developing on Sui. Of course, the first and the most important thing that most of you probably have already done if you have published a smart contract is Sui client publish. In order to publish a smart contract, of course, after building it, after creating and testing that everything works just fine, you have to publish it. This is done through the client. And we'll see many, many more things that you can do. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and install the Sui CLI. Unfortunately, we are not able to wait if somebody doesn't have already, but if you haven't, please ask for help from any of the ambassadors here. They will assist you with that. And afterwards, you will be able to follow along. So, I will have my screen on the side here, a terminal for this. So we can look at some of the commands that we can use through the CLI together. I would advise you follow along, so any questions that you might have while using this CLI alongside me, I want you to stop me, ask me, or whatever you like. So let's go through some of the basic commands of the CLI. And before we do that, actually, I'm going to explain what the CLI is. Basically, it's just another way through the command line to access and talk to the network as a client. Remember the last diagram that we saw that was basically, that said Sui architecture, right? We had on the left side, we had a user. And then we had a tab and an application.
Hello?
And then we had the full node, and then we had the validators. Remember this graph, right?
Dạ căn cước đúng không anh?
Now, instead of a
Dạ
tab,
anh có dặn bảo vệ rồi anh lại anh gửi bảo vệ ở trong cái soạn C2 giúp em ấy nha.
Integration of an SDK or something.
Dạ anh đọc tên
We
em là
can straight simulate, let's say, a client through the CLI. So
em
the CLI itself will help us access the network through a full node, of course. We'll see how we do all that. So that we are clear that we have Sui installed, let's do Sui client dash dash version. If you see a version here, that means that you have correctly installed the Sui CLI and you will be able to follow along. Can I see some hands? Somebody that has a Sui CLI version pop up? Oh, nice. Almost everybody. That's cool. Okay, so let's see what the available options are through Sui client. Actually, before we do that, I apologize for jumping back. We have different tools, not just the client. We see here that we have Sui start. This is basically to start a local net. Remember we said we have DevNet, testnet, and mainnet, but you can also run a local net in your machine at a certain port that you define in order to have a local network running on your machine. If you would like to test even more let's say natively than DevNet, you can simulate a network through localnet via Sui start. We have some stuff regarding validators and Genesis. This key tool is really useful, and we will be using it today and in the following days, which is basically is a key tool that allows us to do some certain things with our private keys, and that's basically how we will be utilizing it, because all your private keys and your key store is stored locally on your machines. So as you will see, we will create addresses through the CLI. We will be interacting with the blockchain. So what does that mean? Since we will be interacting with the blockchain, that means of course that we need to have a way to do that, so an address that's a valid address on the Sui network, and we'll need to have some gas, meaning some dummy testnet or devnet Sui tokens, because we won't be working on mainnet, of course. But if we were to be working on mainnet, then for gas we would need actual Sui tokens. Since this is a bootcamp, of course, we will be working on either devnet or testnet. But that means that since we will need an address to do that, we'll need to see where these key pairs and all our secret stuff, where it is stored, so we can be extra careful not to lose it in the future. So the key tool helps us with that a lot. Then we have the client, which will basically act as the client that helps us simulate this entire process while communicating with the chain, and we'll see what this means in a few commands here on the side, and some other stuff which is a bit more advanced. So let's go straight to the client. Let's see the available functions that the client has. Also, another thing that I love while working with anything regarding the Sui ecosystem, and you'll see that from the client here to writing move code to the SDK integration, that you actually don't need to remember almost anything out of mind. The CLI helps you, the compiler helps you, the libraries, the comments, everything help you and make your life easier. So, for example, if I do not remember all the available options that I do not have, I just wrote Sui client help, and I'm just gonna go through them. For example, I see that there is a command which would be called Sui client active address, and what it does, it returns the default address used for commands when none is specified. Another that is active env. It gives me the default environment that I have. And so many more. We see that we have so many options. Let's start with one. let's start with Sui client active address. I see that the CLI returned to me an address. That, of course, I know that is one of my addresses. If I was to just type Sui client addresses, I will see that all of these are addresses that I have. So basically different, let's say, wallets, different accounts that I have local on my machine. And I have many of these because I use them for testing, for different stuff. I was working with some applications that had multiple entries, and I wanted to simulate multiple users and stuff like that. So the active one is actually returned by this command, and it's this one. I see from the asterisk, if I was to make this a bit bigger, I would see that the active address is specified by the asterisk on the side. So this is my active address indeed. What does that mean? That means that when I try to do any interaction with the blockchain through the CLI here, the one who actually will sign the transaction, meaning who owns whatever is the outcome of this transaction, and who will pay for the gas is this address. So it's a really good practice, and actually I would say is some of the most important things that you have in mind before, for example, you publish a contract or something. Of course, you first need to run Sui client active address to make sure that this is the correct address you want to publish your contract from, right? Another thing you would need to remember is to run Sui client active env. Let's see the outcome of this. Just like the address, the active env returns what we asked it to. We said, give me my active environment. I see that it returned testnet. How do I know which environments I have set? I can just run this command. Sui client envs. By running Sui client envs, I see the RPCs, the full nodes basically that I have set up in my machine, and I've given them an alias so I know with which network I'm working. So let's say that I wanted to work on DevNet. I am already on DevNet, so I'm fine. So if I I created a smart contract and I want to publish it on DevNet through a certain address, I make sure that I am on this certain address, I am on the correct environment that I want to publish, because remember, if I publish a contract on testnet, it does not exist on mainnet. It does not exist on DevNet. All those are different instances of the network, not at all the same. The only thing that is the same across these networks is your address. I really need your attention on this, and this could be a miscommunication or like an interesting topic for those who come from Web 2, is the fact that, let's say that I have an address. With the fact that I have this address means that I have also a secret key behind this address, a key pair, right? If I was to use this address to do certain things on testnet or devnet, that doesn't mean that this address only lives on testnet or devnet. This address also exists on mainnet, right? So be careful not to lose your key pair or expose your key pair, even though you could be only working for testnet, because in the future you might forget that you were using this address only for testnet things and it got leaked or something, and then through this address you create a smart contract, you publish a smart contract, or you acquire some Sui tokens or some NFTs. But the same key pair is for your address in all the different instances on the network. You don't have a different key pair for your address on mainnet or on testnet or on devnet. Your address is generated through the key pair which exists on your machine, and of course your address will have different assets on its network, because as we said, there's different instances of the network. So on testnet, on this address, for example, I could have 10,000 hero NFTs from a contract I published on testnet. But on mainnet, I just have 3 Sui tokens. It's different. I don't have the same assets. It's a different instance of the network. You got this? Is it clear? Great. So let's say that I decided that I want to build and test my product on testnet. I see that I am now on devnet. Let me show you how I can switch with this command. We'll go back to this one. It's Sui client switch. Then we give a flag of what we want to switch. You give a flag either the address or the env. Let's now say the env. And then you provide the alias of the RPC you're looking for. So for me, it would be testnet. And now on my CLI, the active environment is testnet. Pretty straightforward. I could do the exact same thing to switch the address. If I was to say that I wanted to use this one as the default address for now, I would just go Sui client switch -- address, and then I would give this address. You understand? So that's how you could switch between addresses and environments. Going back to this command, which says Sui client gas, this basically returns the amount of gas, meaning the native Sui tokens that you have under the active address. Because remember that we said you have tokens, for example, which are owned objects under your wallet / address. So my active address now is this one, let's say, and let me run Sui client gas. Great, I see that I have 95.32 Sui. Testnet Sui, basically, right? This is not real money because remember we are on testnet. If I was to switch to mainnet and refetch with Sui client gas, I would get 0 because on this address I do not have any mainnet Sui. So different networks, different assets owned, completely different. We saw gas as well. So the next 2 commands we will be seeing, the next 3 actually, when we develop our first smart contract. Sui move build, Sui move test, and Sui client publish. These are almost always done in the same order as we see them here. So I create my smart contract. While I am developing, I run Sui move build so that I make sure that everything builds correctly. Then with Sui move test, I can run all my tests. We'll see how we can create tests, both today and from tomorrow. And with the last command, as you probably already know, is how we publish a smart contract. Sui client publish. Any questions so far? Once again, another great thing is you don't need to remember any of these. You can just type Sui client -- help, and you will get a really informative response from the CLI reminding you that you can use these functions. And all the names are pretty straightforward. Okay, let's work a bit with the key tool. I want to focus on basically these two commands and another one, which is basically import and export. What you can do with these commands is basically, let's say that you have a key pair of an address that you have created, for example, through the Slash wallet or through another wallet, and you want to import this private key so you can use this address on your CLI. You can do that through this command, through this import command. You can also export a private key with this command, and many, many more things. We will be working with this as well as convert in, I think, tomorrow's session. Great, now let's talk about these important files, and I will navigate to these. So, these are two really, really important files regarding while working with Sui and Move in general. We have the client.yaml. Let me open this. This is not a sensitive file, so that I can open it. What do we see here? This client.yaml is basically a configuration file that is used by our CLI. We see that most of the stuff that you see on this configuration file, it was the output of the commands we ran a few minutes ago. It's basically saying that we had an environment that is called testnet that is pointing to this full node URL, blah, blah, blah. This is basically also saying our active environment as well as our active address. So the commands that we run through Sui client touch this client.yaml file. So if I was to run afterwards Sui client switch env to devnet, this word was going to be devnet because the CLI is looking at this file as a point of truth. Also, I could avoid just typing Sui client switch environment, and I could just go and type with my keyboard here devnet, and the environment would change. The CLI is just a way to more easily access this file. So, about Sui.keystore. I will not be opening this, and this is the file that all of you should be really careful with, because this file actually contains all the secret keys, let's say, the key pairs for the addresses that you have on your machine. You saw that I had something like 10 addresses, right? Here I would have 10 key pairs. If this was to get lost, for example, anyone could be able to access my key pair and drain my funds. Of course, I do not have any mainnet Sui in my Sui.keystore, but you never know. I could forget it in the future, and this could get leaked, and I have problems. So even though I know I have nothing, I will still be not opening it, and so should you. The Sui.aliases is basically a mapping file that has a mapping that, let's say, I named one address testing Vietnam, and it's linked to a specific address. This is this mapping. It's done in Sui.aliases. Any questions regarding these files? Getting gas. Since we are going to be developing, I need everybody from here to have some gas. How we can do that? Of course, since on DevNet and testnet, gas is fake tokens, you can access gas through a faucet. This is what we call a faucet service. Of course, there is no such faucet on mainnet because it would return actual money. But since we are on DevNet, make sure to be on DevNet like I will. I switch to DevNet, and then I will write a command sui client gas, sui client faucet, excuse me. If you do that too, you will see that after a few seconds, you will receive 10 DevNet Sui, meaning that you now have gas to actually develop and work on Sui. Let's try to do that also on testnet. Okay, now I am on testnet. I see this URL. It says that you cannot directly ask through the faucet service on testnet. Why? Because so many people are accessing it at the same time and it has gotten a bit overcrowded. So it just redirects me to open this link and manually click and ask for testnet Sui. So I will go ahead and do that. You do the same if you want to get some testnet Sui as well. This is verifying that I'm not a bot. Afterwards, I'm just going to click request testnet Sui. And that's pretty much it. I do not remember if we get a success message or something, but this is pretty much it. You can access the faucet on DevNet and testnet. I remind you why we need to do that, because any interaction, any write operation with the blockchain requires gas. So that means we need to have some sort of Sui tokens to work with. Does everybody have some gas? If you run Sui client gas, you should be able to see a certain amount of Sui. If not, you will not be able to follow the steps where we interact with the chain. Of course, if you are having any issues with the faucet or something, please let me know so I can send you a couple of testnet Sui. That's no issue. But make sure to have some testnet Sui. If you have completed this step and have some testnet Sui, please raise your hand. If you run Sui client gas and you see no valid gas coins found, that means that your request to the faucet was not successful. So either try again by clicking the button, or let me know so I can send you a couple of testnet Sui. I will give you like a minute or two to make sure that everybody has gas so we can move forward with the next steps. Remember, Sui client faucet to access the faucet, and then Sui client gas to see your balance. If your balance is something more than 0, we're good to continue. Are we good? Do we have some gas? Everybody? Great. Then we are ready for our first smart contract. Are you guys excited? I know some of you already have created your Move smart contracts, but let's say that you have not. So let's see how we would be able to do that. With this command, Sui move new, if you were to run this and then give it a name, so for example, Sui move new Dio Bootcamp. Let's say that I name my contract Dio Bootcamp. This command would just go ahead and create a folder that would act as my folder for my smart contracts. I will skip this for now, since we will be showing in just a few minutes an actual smart contract. But this command, I want you to note it down in case you want to create your smart contract in the future, is how you can start from scratch. Basically, Sui move new and then a name, and you are given a folder that we will see and explain its structure and how you can just add logic. So, Sui move new and a name, and then you open that said folder and start writing move code. Final short presentation. I swear I will not take much time. After this, we'll start coding together, and it will be, I think, much more interesting if we code all together. But a really small presentation before that, so that we are we give some hints before we start coding, is this B1 presentation. I want to remind you that you can find all of these presentations on the GitHub repo. Not only code, also our presentations. So let's see. If we were to run this Sui move new and a function, we would see that we would get a folder structure that has some modules inside of it. Code is organized into packages. What we see here is basically we are saying that we have a package called, so the contract itself called coin, and inside this coin contract we have this coin module. So the second part of the expression here would be from the package to the module name. Think of it, if you are familiar with object-oriented languages, think of it like a Java class or something. This, inside this coin module would leave anything, any action related to the coin, of course. To the flash lender afterwards, to the escrow on the bottom side. And what these use statements basically mean is that we are importing, like you do in any other language, also in Move, you can import code from other packages. So we are saying, on this flash lender, import the coin struct that exists on the coin module. Make sense? We can import from other packages. Careful here with this one. Why? Because if I have, let's say, contract X, and my friend here, please remind me your name? Lam. Has created another smart contract. that has some other dependencies. If I import his smart contract, I also put, let's say, my trust into his code. So if there was, for example, for his smart contract to be exploited, and I'm using a function from his smart contract, I could be exploited too. So theoretically, you have to be really careful with the contracts, especially from not from the Sui ecosystem, but other contracts that you are using when you are importing them into your package. And you should look into the fact that they should be heavily audited. Anyone knows what audits mean? Okay. Yes, there's basically companies who are, let's say, responsible for doing that thing, like going through smart contracts and testing every possibility and trying to destroy them, trying to crack them, find loopholes and stuff like that. That means then that they are audited and they are safe to use in a sense. Let's see about this move.toml. As we will see, every smart contract, every package in Move has this move.toml file. We'll see it in action, but just a sneak peek here. This is basically the configuration file for our contract, where we can define some metadata like the name, the version, some dependencies, as we see here, addresses and stuff like that. Basically configuration. Of course, as previously mentioned, packages can contain multiple modules. So I have a scenario where I want to build a game where a hero has their sword and they slay dragons, for example, or whatever, they slay, I don't know, demons. That means that I could theoretically batch and organize my code in different modules. Everything that has to do with a hero could go on the hero module. Everything that has to do with a dragon could go to the dragon module, etc. So all these modules together live under the same package. So one package, multiple modules, make a smart contract. Is that clear? Okay, really quickly about this, nothing really interesting here, but as we saw previously, we have a struct declaration. What a struct declaration is, as in any other programming language, we have, let's say, a struct, a type. Here we're defining that we have a struct named coin. It is advised to, when naming structs, to always have the first letter as capital and the rest as a lowercase, which has some abilities. We'll get into this really shortly, and some fields. We said, of course, that if it has the key ability, that means that this will be an object on chain, and some other fields. We see that we are giving the type. This is an unsigned integer of 64. It could be a string, a vector, or whatever. We will see that in a few minutes. Let's now see how we actually declare functions. Because, as you remember, smart contracts are basically 90% of a smart contract would be struct definitions and functions that you call, basically. So let's see this first function. Anyone who would like to try to explain to me word by word, what do you think this declaration says? I think it's pretty straightforward, like any other programming language, but let's try to figure this out. This would be a smart contract function that would be named by. Anyone who would like to try? Word for word. You want to take this? Get the microphone, please.
Okay, so the code is about to write a function that name by, and C is just a name of a variable, and coin is just a type of that variable.
Exactly.
And then car tile is a return type of that function.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yes, this is 100% correct. So what we're saying is that we have a function with the name by that accepts one parameter with that this parameter should be of type coin. So basically only structs with the type coin are allowed on this function. And after what we're seeing after the column is that this function will return a struct of type car title. This is what this basically is. Anyone who wants to get on the next one, on the register, after what we just said? Who would like to try? You see, we're giving gifts. Just try. If you're wrong, we'll just explain it. It's okay. No need to get it right. No need. After all, after the 6 days, you will be experts. Now we're still on day 1, not even completed. So who wants to try and read what this register function basically declares? You can try half of it. It's okay. You want to try?
Fun is the semantic work to declare the function. Register is the name of function. T is a parameter. And car title is a reference struct. And F is another parameter. And coin is the type struct.
Great.
Carecitration is a return struct return type.
The
Return type struct of this function.
Correct. It says that basically give me an object of type car title and an object of type coin, and I will give you back an object of car registration, right? One small difference. You see this AND operator before car title. Yes, the ampersand. Does this remind you something in other programming languages, like C, for example? What does this remind you of? It's a reference, absolutely. What we mean by that, you see, for example, on function by, on coin, we do not have a reference to the type. What's the difference here is that we're saying that I want you to think of everything as an object. I am holding a coin object. And when I buy, I want to actually give you the coin object. So I need this function to consume it, to get the coin object, right? I need to give it. I no longer have it. If I call the buy function with a coin, that means I no longer own the coin. I give it to the buy function. That's why I am passing it as a full value. You see, a full value. Here, I do not want to pass my car title. I want to just pass a reference to my car title, meaning I want to show you, imagine that I have my car title on my phone, I want to register, and I'm like, look, this is my car title, I have it. Now that this function knows that I have it, it saw it, because I was able to provide it as a parameter, it allows me to, this is the registration, it's like, here is my car title, and here is my coin, take it. See, this second one is passed as a value, so it will change ownership. the car title will not change ownership. I just showed it as a reference. That's basically the idea of passing something as a value and passing something as a reference. Is that clear? We went through the slide before. And again, reminding you, the object states are owned objects, like the car title and the coin, immutable, like the contracts, and system objects. Now time for another, let's say, mini quiz here. We have 3 pieces of code who are wrong and have some errors. I want some different people to try to find the errors on each piece of code. The only piece of data that we have is that we have a struct of type coin, which has the key ability, which means that it's an object on chain, an ID, and a balance. This is it. And now we have 3 functions that have different errors. Who would like to try, for example, let's start with bar. Who would like to try bar? Somebody else? You have taken the lead. Thank you very much for participating, but let's give the opportunity to somebody else. Who would like to explain why bar has an error? Feel free to try. You don't have to get it wrong. I just want you to get engaged. Who wants to try? Or I will pick a random participant. We're talking about bar right here. Who wants to try? You wanna try? Sorry? You want some context on this? Yes. Okay, we have a function bar that accepts as a value, right? It accepts a coin as a value. What does that mean? Not as a reference. So that means that you are consuming this coin object when calling this bar function, right? So if you provided a coin, then it will get the coin. You no longer have it. Why does this function inside calls pay 2 times? Pay, which accepts coin, as we see, and we have an error. Do you want to maybe answer why this is wrong?
Because the first pay function is consumed in the C, the variable C, so there is no longer C to pay second pay function consume again.
Absolutely right. We see here that we are accepting a coin. So basically a coin. This first line, pay C, consumes this coin. So when on the next line I'm trying to pay again and call the pay function with the same coin object once again, it will fail. Why? Because I have already consumed it. Since I've called the pay function with C, I no longer have C, right? I no longer have the coin. So this would be considered double spending, and it is not allowed. So the compiler will throw an error. Make sense? Okay, what about, actually I will cover the next 2 because we have not discussed this. Function foo would throw an error because, as we see on line coin, on this line basically, we are trying to copy C, but we do not have the copy ability. We will see that another ability exists, which is called copy. And if you do not specifically give this ability to a struct, you cannot copy it, so create another instance of it like a copy. And so on and so forth. Without the copy ability, you cannot dereference from a reference. We will see these in examples. And the reason why this one is wrong is because we have a different type of, a different way to pass variables, actually. As we see on the function base, we are passing coin as a value. That means that we cannot change its value, let's say. We cannot change its fields as we are trying to do on the next line. If we wanted, for example, to change its fields, we would need to pass it as a mutable. We will see what that means shortly. Ready to start coding? We are heading to the final part of today. We'll write some move code all together. We'll start with some basic stuff and basically revise all the things that we said earlier today, but now through move code. So I would advise you, if you want to follow along, to open the repository that to clone, of course, git clone the repository that I shared on the chat, which is the Move Bootcamp. And after you clone it, let's open it and start coding together. So after you clone the repo, you will basically be here, and I'll give you some time so that everyone can open the repository here. You see that we are on the main branch because we actually want to start from an empty space so we can code along and reach towards the solution. For this example, we will be working on B1. So if you wanted to see the solution afterwards on B1, you would go on GitHub or here and go to the branch name B1 solution or B1 sol or something like that, and you would find the entire solution for B1. In case you want to revisit, get prepared for the hackathon or whatever you like, you can find the solution to everything that we do on module name dash solution. But let's start from main. I'll give you a few minutes so that you can clone the repository, and afterwards navigate into B1, basic move, and we'll see the folder structure once again. Actually, I would say since we are quite all right on time, a bit ahead of time, I would say let's take a quick 15-minute break so that we can have coffee or something. And then afterwards, we start coding. So in the meantime, if somebody is not ready, please download the CLI if you haven't already. If you need help, reach out to me or any of the ambassadors, and clone the Bootcamp repository. After you do these two, you will see that following along from here will be super easy. Move is really simple. So you will have no issues to follow along. But please do that during the break, and we'll continue at 3:45. Sounds good? Thank you. as well. I started like exploring with Web3 and blockchain concepts by courses and stuff like that. I didn't even attend bootcamps and stuff like you're already ahead of me. This will be so helpful to introduce you to Web3. And also, we have a long-term plan here with the Sui Bootcamp, and all the participants will be in touch with you guys in the future too. So it's not like one bootcamp and done. We will introduce you to opportunities, to new examples, so that you can get familiar and find job opportunities. So for example, at the last bootcamp that happened in Nigeria like a week ago, we saw that some students who did really well and had some questions and understood the concept, we introduced them to partners who wanted engineers to work for them, for example. So it's an ongoing relationship, starting from today's bootcamp. So that's why we need you to pay attention and communicate. Any question that you have, please feel free to shoot it. Also, try to answer my questions, even if it's wrong. It's no worries. I know that you learn better from your mistakes. If you ask something and it's wrong, and I give you the correct answer, you will never forget it. I'm sure of it. So feel free to try. Yeah, this is between us. This is a learning experience. I want you to take it easy. Yeah, absolutely. Είτε εδώ πέρα είναι, κάνω μάθημα, εδώ κάθομαι, εδώ είναι τεράστια μου η οθόνη, κάνω μάθημα, και εδώ είναι οι μαθητές. Όλοι αυτοί τρέχονται.
Mọi người cứ biểu cảm kiểu say hello với Cam bây giờ mọi người có nhớ say hello với Cam xứ anh em là phải thì vẫy tay rồi để ba hai một quay nè. Rồi một mặt đưa lại xíu. Lại nha. Xong thử đi mình view lại. Check mặt trước này.
Δεν στοιχιάμε, δηλαδή πρέπει να βάλεις σε 2 ώρες θα τελειώσει.
muốn chưa? Kệ hết ở đây giờ bấm thử luôn nha. Ok, 3, 2, 1. Cái vòng này sẽ kết thúc ở giờ cho mọi người xem lại nha.
Μηχανικός σημαίνει, η ακριβής λέξη είναι μηχανικός, αλλά έτσι είναι, απλά εδώ ξεχάσα να βάλω το πρώτο ε.
Đó là style của Rô mà. Cao ăn quá.
Coi lại điện thoại, coi điện thoại. Không cầm điện thoại không coi luôn chứ đừng coi cái nó xong nhớ.
Đau này các bạn ơi, giờ mở đau điên luôn. Để cái bể ra.
Xong sao?
Thì nó bị có vết thương là đỡ bạn dẫn giúp cả Sui Bootcamp.
Sao? Ok luôn.
Ông quay cái chữ Bootcamp nè.
Hả? Để Bootcamp hay lấy
Quay lấy cái sụt này nè.
Bootcamp này thôi. Nó nhăn quá.
Thì mẹ đi, điểm nhấn. Với lại cái bên kia nữa kìa. Ông tôi nghĩ ông quay cái này quay lên.
Quay lên nè, quay lên không có điểm dừng.
Không, ý là không, quay từ cái này lên cho lấy hết cái banner này được. Xấu hả? Này thì đây.
Đó.
Rồi, ok đẹp. Rồi, bây giờ tới tôi đúng không? Cũng có lụm lên.
Θα κάνω Δευτέρα, Τρίτη, Τετάρτη. Θα κάνω αυτό μόνο μου.
Και μετά θα έρθει αυτός.
Ναι, μετά θα έρθει να αναλάβει για να ξεκουραστώ και εγώ λίγο. Να είναι καλά ο άνθρωπος.
Cái đó bấm quay được luôn các bạn.
Thì có gì tôi bấm là phụ.
Μέχρι Σάββατο, ναι.
Vậy thì phải về
Phải có tặng này.
ly nước này nhé.
Σάββατο φεύγετε δηλαδή.
Όχι, Δευτέρα.
Xui thật.
Số này á.
Là
Lúc
lúc
này như được lọc mà sao biết có ra. Đây được, thấy không?
Check trong cái điện thoại coi góc ok.
Góc này tùm lum rồi Phan ơi.
Đại vô đâu mà tụi luôn phén.
Chết lại. Ok, góc này nữa.
Ê, qua trái, nó ngồi qua trái xíu đi.
Qua trái.
À, qua phải. Qua phải. Hai nữa.
Giờ vô center này nè. Có đau đẹp nè. Đây ra xuống mình. Đây ra kia nha. Em phải vô không phải xíu nữa đúng không bạn? Không, xíu nữa thôi là vô center.
Ok. Rồi trái xíu rồi nhấc trái. Ok, hay đó.
Lấy cái rúa hả? Biết có không nữa? Để cái bàn đây nè. Cái mức
Có trên hỏi nó không có bằng. Đâu, không biết có không nữa. Ông nhớ lời điện thoại không vậy? Khó nói điện thoại.
dính cái bản kêu pro.
Cái slide kia nhìn nó hay hơn.
Với lời nó vậy nhưng mà
Khó quá. Nó có cái đồ gạt phía sau gạt.
find a finish ground just by 2 walks from the lab. So they learn hold and pitch.
Việt Cảm nói đi Will. Việt Cảm nói đi, Việt Cảm nói đi.
Không, Will cũng có mấy đoạn Việt Cảm mà.
Việt Cảm cuối là
Có cái bàn này nó tự một cái rồi nha. Chống đồ đấy. Gấp những hát như pro. Có cái bàn này cũng quay cặp rồi đi vô vậy.
Ồ, cái này coi này là nếu mà lấy thôi. Này chủ yếu là buộc cái tiếng buộc sao.
Rồi ok. Tôi hạn chế ra phải luôn. Đó ấy. Còn có cái bàn này quay cộng. Rồi ok.
Hai bắt đầu nè.
Bắt đầu chưa? Okay. They are home focus and of course, always targeting Sui. Absolutely, Ho Chi Minh City from ideas to prototype to the real project. On the Buddha here are going to ship our next luxury product to Sui ecosystem. Let's move together.
Ok.
Okay, rồi.
Đây góc. Đây giờ không quay không?
Có không? Nhưng mà nó rộng quá. Ok không?
Ok.
Được không? Nó zoom lên được. Đấy là xong chưa để mọi người?
Xong.
Ok. Rồi, thank you mọi người nhiều nhé. Có quay
Thuê rồi. Cái góc này cũng ok mà. Về cũng lắm xuôi.
Cạnh cái nọt này không? Hay xuống rồi. Ngủ cà phê. Ok. Rồi xong rồi. Mời đi.
Xong rồi này.
Ghép số mấy.
Ok.
Tính đường mà thêm.
Thiếu rồi. Giờ phải được chịu tí nữa.
Chúc bạn. Bây giờ thì thiếu cái gì mới liền. Thiếu mới liền. Thiếu gì mới liền.
Cho một cái C2C đi.
Rồi cái ok nè, cái bóc này view ở đây đúng không? Là chứng tỏ đứng đây ok nè, đúng không? Không quay cái gì đâu, không quay cái gì đâu, chứ đúng không? Không chỉ cần một cái hình thôi đi.
Còn lấy từ phút này thôi.
Sáng chói. Cho mượn cái laptop này. Laptop đây. Không quay lên á. Không có cái FB gì anh chị mẹ vô có con nhỏ ngồi trên cái ghế. Chị gì mà. Cái gì mà cái gì có ô tô cái bài
Ông diễn đại đi, diễn đại cái sau đó đi.
Đừng nhớ. Đừng nghe tiếng. Vietjet hả? Má nó ra tại sao gì không đi? Super lớp hả? Cái cảnh nó bày nó ngồi mà ta. Nè, ý là muốn kiểu Trời. Nè, nó. Ý là thay vì là con nhỏ thì là cái laptop mà anh mấy đẹp quay quanh.
Ok.
Được không?
Ok được. Chơi.
Vô cái máy đầu chụp chưa như vậy?
Chưa.
Mình đâu. Ok.
Bạn rút cái bạn rút cái nền tảng nào vậy? Nền tảng nào? Facebook hả?
Ok. Ai chuyên nghiệp á, hỏi nền tảng nào biết canh khung á.
Từ nha.
if you guys want to, sorry to scare you, if you guys want to wrap up your breaks shortly, we'll continue in 5 minutes. That's good? Nice.
Nhưng mà nghĩ là ông ngồi gì đúng không ạ?
Ngồi sao? Ngồi hết hả?
Ngồi tới là ngồi thầy chỗ gì mấy nhân tục quá.
Ngồi dưới đất. Vậy hả?
Okay. Có nhiều anh em thì ok.
You haven't travel around Europe? Do you have travel around Europe?
Around Europe? To be honest, not so much. I've not traveled around Europe. How about you?
Not much. Because we are the IT, we are boring about the travel.
More?
We are the traveling about boring about the traveling.
Okay, okay.
We are the just focused about coding, just focus about something.
Okay, okay.
Because of my father will talk with me when I come to Malaysia. Hey, do you know something Colombia? I will talk say no. I will talk to my father. Why? I thought I don't care about something.
Hey guys, I want, before we get started, I want to your attention for just a second. Let me also put this on. Our community lead told me to grab some details from you guys, because in the future we might be sending you some stuff. We want to connect with you in a sense, as I previously told you. So I will give you a form, a link to a Google form on the Telegram group chat. Please fill that out, so we have your details for future opportunities or for things that we will be sending you in the future. Since we really like to keep a close relationship with all our bootcamp participants. So please fill up the form that I will share with you guys. And if to the community ambassadors, if there are people who join tomorrow, please remind them to also fill this form out. And if there are folks who are seeing us online, because I think there are some, right?
Cái form mọi người cố gắng điền nha. Sẽ gửi vào Telegram liền.
Terran? There are people who are signed up to the bootcamp but are online, right?
Yes.
They should also fill out this form. Could we please invite everybody to the Telegram group?
Yes, I will.
Even the online folks? and inform them to fill out the form that I will send just now. For that, please also you'll see that on your form, you will need to give us your /wallet address, because you might be given some stuff in the future. You don't know. Yeah, so if you haven't already, create a / account. It's really easy. Our ambassadors can help you with that if you haven't. So don't miss out, right? Give us your address. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't know what's coming in the future, but it's better to not miss out.
So may drop, maybe.
I don't know.
Nhưng mà cái form này là exclusive cho những người đi bootcamp nha. Rồi, chị nói vậy thôi. Em chỉ nói vậy thôi.
Mọi gì đó hả bạn? Hết ý rồi.
Không nói gì nữa. Sau này sẽ có những bất ngờ, giống như mọi người nhớ Sui Bootcamp không? Top 25 của Sui Bootcamp là được sponsor đi Sui Fest Singapore.
Có top podcast.
Thì ai biết trong tương lai, ví dụ chẳng hạn như có một cái bootcamp nào đó ở Hy Lạp chẳng hạn, mọi người.
Nhưng mà có một em nói là có một cái mail Sui builder đúng không?
Nói chung là em không biết nha, em chỉ mang đến thông tin, không phải lời khuyên đầu tư hay gì cả.
Phi là nhận đô rồi biết.
Mọi người cố gắng fill cái form nha mọi người. Sai đi, biết đâu, có gì đâu.
Can I ask you something? Are there any spare mouse pads like the one I have on the table that I
Yeah,
can
sure.
get with me?
Yeah, I have like exclusive more for you. Don't worry.
Oh, it's okay. I just need, because I need a mouse pad. If that's okay,
It's a
great.
part for you.
Oh, amazing! Thank you very much.
After combine the training bootcamp, we are sponsor fly to attend, right?
Sorry, again?
Sponsor fly to Athens, right?
You want to go to Athens? You mean?
Yes, we are.
You are going to Athens. When?
No,
User bootcamp.
he asked for like some sponsor for him to go to Sui Athens or something like that.
Could be. You have to tell that to Philip. Are you in communication with Philip?
We in live stream. If you talk private.
Okay, we're not saying anything private.
Yes.
Actually, I will not be able to take that decision, I'm being honest, but you can talk to Philip about it. Philip, the community, you talk to You can ask Philip, I don't know. Hey, this is Sui ecosystem is full of opportunities. I don't know if they find their role is complicated. They might. I don't know. I cannot make that decision. But feel free to ask. You never know. Until you ask. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. How do I view it? I love it. It's so beautiful. Actually, I don't live in Athens. I live in Thessaloniki, which is the second biggest city in Greece. But Athens is beautiful. I prefer Thessaloniki, if I'm being honest. This is where I live. But Athens is also beautiful. Did you send the link to where is it? And how they did handle the telephone? Has everybody completed and submitted the form? Okay,
Don't
good.
forget it. Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. So, if you have submitted the form and you have opened VS Code like I have here, I say how about we start and dive into the last section of today, which will be actually writing move code alongside each other. We're going to see some really basic stuff to keep it light for today, and then we're going to end. I'll let you go to your places and rest, and we'll start tomorrow at 10, right? Today we had some issues with the weather. If that's the case, tomorrow too, we'll delay a bit, but let's try to aim for 10 a.m. tomorrow, because we have lots of coding, lots of new interesting stuff to show, so we need all the time we can get. Okay, great, so let's open B1. What we will be actually seeing on B1 and what the module goals, let's say, are, it's basically we will see how packages and modules are defined inside a move smart contract. We will work with the move compiler, and we will compile and build our code, run some tests, some move tests, see how we actually construct our tests. And last but not least, we are going to explore another ability on structs, which is called the drop ability. Remember that so far we've seen the key ability, which is basically the ability that allows us to convert, in a sense, a struct type of move to an actual Sui object. Remember that we said that any object that has the key ability should have an ID, and thus it's an object that will live on chain. So that's the key ability. We also briefly talked about the copy ability, which allows the struct to be copied. That's it, basically. And we will be introducing the drop ability in this one, as well as the store ability, we'll see what these are. All the abilities in general are these four: key, store, copy, and drop. I think this is a great opportunity for me to also share with you guys some really useful documentation aside from our Sui docs, which is the move book. The move book is this right here. I will share the link on our chat. This is basically, in my opinion, one of the best, let's say, source of truth regarding Sui Move. And I use it all the time if I want to remind myself of certain objects. So, for example, I just told you that we have some abilities on types. I would just go ahead on the move book and search for abilities. You see, this is exactly what we talked about. Once again, you do not have to keep in mind everything that we mentioned here. You can use all the links that we provide on Telegram throughout these days to revisit any material that you need. So for example, I can reference the move book here, search for abilities, and see that these are the 4 abilities that we have for move structs: copy, drop, store, and key. Some examples and some use cases for all of them. I will not dive into the documentation right now, but I want you to have this as another point of reference when you study. This goes from basic concepts to really advanced concepts, so it depends on how well you want to dive into Move. So let's get started. In order for you to have the best experience while working with Move code on Visual Studio Code, I will start by saying that I suggest you use Visual Studio Code for writing Move. Please make sure that you also have the following extensions. These extensions have been shared to you via email, but if you haven't already, please go to extensions and search for Misten Labs. You will see these 3 first extensions pop up. Please make sure to add these and activate them. Basically, a Move formatter, a trace debugger, and the Move language itself. So we have clearer formatting, clearer messaging, and like a better experience overall while writing Move code, highlighting and stuff like that. So make sure to add these 3. I'll give you like 3 minutes for that. It's rather quick if you haven't already. You can search at the extensions, Misten Labs, and you will find these 3 to install. All good with the extensions? Should be okay, all good, nice, great. Anyone needs help? Great. So we're done with that too. Let's jump into our code. We'll see that we have this basic move package, right? Imagine that we were inside of this folder and we typed Sui move new basic underscore move. This would be exactly what would be generated for us by the CLI. What would it be? It would be a move.log file, which is basically your locked dependencies, a move.toml file, and also let me open it to remind you what this is. Remember that we said that this is the configuration file for our smart contracts. Some metadata, some dependencies, some predefined addresses that we would want to maybe access on our smart contracts or our tests. So basically the configuration for the smart contract is that move.toml file. A tests folder where we would be able to actually implement our tests. We'll get into that in a bit. A git ignore file, I think I have created this one in order to avoid the build folder and not push it to GitHub. And a basic move file, which would basically be empty if we were to run Sui move new. Here I have already prepared some stuff so we can work towards a solution together. We will see and we will try to read what this means. I want somebody to volunteer and help me read this file, what it has so far, line by line. Anyone who wants to take a guess? I think there's almost nothing new except for the tests at the bottom, but this is pretty straightforward what these are. We will implement some stuff on top of here, but let's say that this is our starting step. Somebody gave you this contract to start from. How would you be able to read it? Who wants to go from line 1 to line 23? Really quickly. Just so that we know that we can read the syntax of move. Yeah, try, come on, try.
The first line is the package name and module name.
Absolutely correct, yes. Package and module declaration.
And then we create a struct hero with key and store ability.
That's right. And what about line 3?
A new struct for insignificant
No,
weapon.
line 3, please. Line 3.
Line 3. This is ID for this hero.
Correct. Why do we say that we need this ID? Do you remember?
For the for hero unit.
Yes. It has to have with the key ability, right? Remember? Since we defined that this hero has the key ability, it means that this is not just a struct, because we will see that, for example, this insignificant weapon will not be an object that will live on chain. It's just a struct that we will use on our smart contract. But since here we have defined on hero that it has the key ability, that means that after we we interact with this smart contract, for example, and we create a hero, that hero will be an NFT that will be owned by a certain wallet. So when we are defining the key ability, we need to specifically provide an ID so that it has a unique identifier and it can live on chain. The store ability is something new, and I'll let you continue after that. Basically, the store ability tells us that this struct can be included inside another object. So if we were to have a storage of heroes, we would be able to keep heroes inside the storage of heroes. So this is why it has the store ability. We will work intensively with the store ability in the upcoming days. Don't get too worked up about it. You will understand that it's pretty straightforward. Key lives on chain. Store, it can be stored, basically. Drop, we'll see in a bit. But how about you continue with line 6?
Use drop in significant weapon as drop ability and store. This weapon can be dropped and this weapon accept power.
That's right. Yep, that's right. What about line 10?
This function is for min a hero and return an hero.
Okay, this is a new, we see something new. We see that we are accepting the context. Anyone who knows what this is, we have never mentioned it before. If not, I will just go ahead and explain it. The TX context, as you see here, is basically a special type in Move that gives us some, let's say, metadata about the Sui blockchain. What does that mean? That through the context, we can do some specific things like get the transaction sender, right? We can get that through the context. This is basically saying that we want the context of the blockchain to be passed inside this transaction. For this example, we see why do we need the context? Because through the context, we can also create a new ID by this function. These are all stuff that you will see all over again. You will see from our examples that you have to do some stuff, let's say, you will do some stuff from mind, let's say. But in order to create, for example, an ID, because as we say here, the hero should have an ID. So here that we are constructing a hero, we somehow need to give it an ID. How do we construct an ID? Through the new function that accepts the context. Also, another thing about the context is that when calling the, let's say, the mint hero function from an application that just calls this move call, this mint hero function, you do not have to pass it. It's not a parameter that you need to specifically provide. It's given by default. But on the move level, we need to define it. Why? Because we need to access it here and do some stuff with the context parameter. But if I created a DApp that mints heroes through a button, let's say I have a frontend that I click a button mint hero and it calls this move function. I don't have to pass a parameter here for context. It gets it automatically. Great. So you were on line 10. Line 11?
Line 11. We call hero struct to create hero.
That's right.
And the 12th line is return the hero.
Absolutely. The last element inside the move function is actually what is being returned. So since now we just say hero, is us saying that please return the variable hero that we created on the line above. And it should be of type hero. Pretty straightforward. We are saying that we will return a struct of type hero, and we are doing just that. Okay, what about 15 through 17?
This function is for creating insignificant weapon, and we pass the power parameter, and this function return a struct weapon with the power we given.
That's right. Just another constructor function, let's say. And afterwards, from line 19 to line 23, is basically some tests that we will implement, some integration tests, let's say, because imagine that since smart contracts are a code that you cannot change, right? After you publish it, it's done. You should be really careful to test any and every function that you have on your smart contract. So for example, we'll see that we will create tests for all the functions that we have. We'll see how we can create tests. And just so that I give you a sneak peek, what we want to actually do in a test is some way of simulate the blockchain inside the test and say that, imagine that this is a real scenario. So we start a scenario and we say, okay, now mint a hero. Now do that with a hero. Now check their name. Now do this, do that. And after we verify that all that happens with no issue, we assert that there is no issue. That means that our test will pass. If our tests pass, that means that when somebody actually calls this move function, they would have the results expected. So we feel safe to publish our contracts. Thank you very much. See, you did perfect. Be a bit more confident and try things out. You did so good, thank you. Give me just a moment to get prepared. Is every one of you guys inside basic move? So we start coding together. We need to reach a certain point where this is an actual contract. Here we basically have start definitions. We need to add more stuff. So let's code it together. How about we start by adding another field to the hero? Because right now our hero is pretty empty, right? It just has an ID. I would like, for example, to add a name to my hero. How I would go about that? I would just add another field in the struct declaration. The string itself is not actually a primitive type in Move. We need to specifically import it from the string library, like so. Remember that we use the use keyword in order to import. What we're saying here is that from the std package, from the string module, give me the string struct type. So let me show you. This string.move file is just another module that is called string. This is one of the native, let's say, packages and modules that was given by the creators of Sui Move. And we know that inside here exists a type that is called string. Of course, You do not have to reinvent the wheel and go and do all the ASCII decoding and from bytes to string or whatever. You can just use the string module and import the string type. So that's exactly what we are doing here. And we are saying import the string type. So this is of type string. Of course, now our linter says that missing argument for field name in hero. Why? Because of course, we also now need to provide a name. Let's accept it as a parameter, so we don't hard code it. We say that we accept a name of type string, and we pass this name to the constructor. See here that I just defined the parameter like so. If you already are familiar with this concept from TypeScript or JavaScript or whatever, I could, of course, do it like that. This is also valid syntax, of course. I'm saying that for the field with the name, assign the parameter which is called name. In order to avoid that, move allows us to just omit this and say name. This works fine. If the parameter is exactly the same as the field name, you can just give the parameter name. Cool. We have extended our hero now to accept another field. I think that you feel like this is pretty straightforward. This is, I think, really clean how move works. We extended the hero to also accept a name, and let's go ahead and implement the test mint function. Now that we have finished with our mint function, now make the test. Remember when I was previously briefly explaining what we are trying to achieve in test? I said that we want to simulate a scenario, let's say an image of the blockchain inside our test, where we run this specific test mint function. So how we do that is basically follow along. I will write a line of code and then I will pick the microphone up again so I can explain. So what I did here so far, I initialized a variable called test. This will act as the test scenario. Let's say that you learn this by heart, because this is the way that we run we write every single test basically. We will initialize a scenario. Once again, I want to get, for those who have never seen Rust, for example, before, because this would remind you of Rust, what this says here, test scenario, column, begin, is basically we are saying from the test scenario module, give me the begin function so that I can begin the test scenario. After I begin this, I assign it into a mutable variable called test. Why mutable? Because we will actually be mutating it. If we did not define it as mutable, we would get a compiler error. Once again, don't get scared about the concepts of what's mutable, what's not. We will see that the compiler helps us a lot. If we were just to forget that I needed to assign this as a let mute test, afterwards when I was trying to continue my test, my compiler would be like, Did you forget to add mute? Because this should be immutable. So don't worry about that stuff too much. As you get more familiar with it, you will understand what is what. But lastly, what am I providing on the last argument there inside begin is I'm saying I give it an address. This at operator is basically how we're saying this is an address. And whatever I give it afterwards is a dummy address. I just named this OX12345 or cafe or whatever, coffee. This begin function accepts an address. This address is basically who will be the main actor in this test scenario. For us, it's just a dummy address. Could be an actual address, could be not. So the error we're seeing here, basically, and of course we will solve it, is that we're saying that why the compiler is complaining. It says that you have created a variable that is called test, and you are not doing it anything else in the function, so I cannot end. What does that mean? I have constructed with the begin function a test, so an object basically, right, of type test, or a struct. I have not consumed it. I'm still holding it. You're telling me to finish the function, but I still have this. I need to do something with this. I need to destroy it. I need to transfer it. I need to do something with it. We cannot have things left hanging. The only time we can have things left hanging is if they have the drop ability. And we will see a test just regarding the drop ability. So we imagine that the type that is returned from this function does not have the drop ability. So the compiler tells us once again, you have, let's see the exact message, if it's self-explanatory. The local variable test still contains a value. The value does not have the drop ability and must be consumed before the function returns. See, once again, I forgot about it, but the compiler tells me, the linter tells me, oh yeah, I need to do something with this. What? I need to consume it in a way. Of course, we will consume it because we will implement the rest of the test. But I wanted to stress this because you see, once again, the compiler helps us. We don't need to remember everything. So let's continue with the test. We start this test scenario. Also, you see that I imported the test scenario module, right? What this test-only marking means, it's basically, I'm telling the compiler, do not build this when I am actually building the application. Only worry about this when I'm running the tests, so I don't overcrowd my program. Now, since we want to test the mint, let's, of course, create a hero. The call expects 2 arguments, but got 0. The 2 arguments that we accept are the ID and the name. Excuse me, the name and the context. See here, the name and the context. So, how are strings defined in Move? Tomorrow we'll dive more deep into strings and we'll explain what goes under the hood. But just a quick, let's say, walkthrough it's basically, this is how we define it. We say that this is my string inside ears, I don't know how you call it. And we convert this into bytes. This is what B does. And then we have a byte array, and we convert this into a string with a toString function. There's a few other ways how you can construct a string. I find this the most straightforward in my opinion. We're saying this is my string, this is my byte array of strings, give me a string from that. The second, which would be the context, we can get the context while writing tests always through the test scenario. Test.context. I know that these are new. This might not make a complete sense. This is your first time seeing this. So don't worry, you'll see that as we write more tests, these patterns will repeat, and after some time it will make sense. Okay, so now we have created a hero. Once again, like with the test itself, we need to do something. See, the hero still contains a value. We cannot drop it. We need to somehow consume it. Actually, before we consume it, the hero, let's introduce another concept which is called assertions. Assertions are a way for us to make sure that we have the expected result. So, how could I be sure, for example, that after I create a hero on line 26, after I create a hero on line 26, what is the one thing that I could take a look into so that I am sure that the constructor function, the mint hero function, worked?
Check the name.
Absolutely, check the name. So we know that we created a hero with the name Vietnam Hero. So on the second line, on the next line, excuse me, after line 27, that means I should have an object of hero with this specific name. If I try to assert that this hero has this name and the assertion fails, that means that somewhere in my construction of the mint function I have an issue. So since we have the field of the name, let's check with the field of the name. You could check with any other field or any other way that you would choose, but I will do the name. Check that the hero we created on top dot name, because as you see here, it has the name field. Is equal to the string that we gave before, dot to string. The second parameter that you can pass in an assertion is an error code. What does that mean? If I was to give 111, this is my error code, for example. Why would I do that? Because let's say that I have 1,000. That's not the case, because you would need to, you can't make that big of smart contracts with 1,000 functions. That's not a good practice. But let's say I have plenty of smart contracts, and I have plenty of functions, and I have plenty of assertions. If I run this code, I run my tests, and I see that the test fails, it would be easier for me to go ahead and see something output on the terminal and link a number to this specific assertion. So let's say that I've set this 111 as the error code for this specific assertion. So if I run my tests and I see that a test fails with this code, I know exactly to visit line 27 and see and start debugging, basically. We will see what this is and how we can utilize it. Afterwards, after we make this assertion, please do not forget that we need to consume the hero and the test before we conclude with this function. Because as you see here, the error code says that hero and test still contain a value. Do something with it. Since this is a test scenario, in a real application, what we would do after actually creating a hero would be to either transfer it to an address, so it has an owner basically, or make it a shared object, so that everybody can access it, right? Since this is a test, we can just go ahead and destroy it. We don't need to transfer it. We could transfer it into a dummy address. This would work as well. But in order to not create garbage, let's go ahead and destroy it. We can do that by these few lines, and then let me also end the test like so. And now we have no issues and our test is complete. Let me explain what we did on line 28 through line 32. Remember that we had the hero. We need to consume it somehow. The thing is that if you want to delete, this is only for test purposes, I remind you. So let me also, I will also need to import this delete function. This destroy function, excuse me. This will be used in the next test. Okay, so we see that I have the hero here. I created the hero. I assert that the name is what I need it to be. So afterwards, I need to destroy it. As we said, we cannot have it in our hands. It would be stuck here, and our test would fail. So what I am doing here in line 31 to 34 is I am deconstructing it. Are you familiar with the term of deconstruction in general in programming languages? It's basically what I'm saying is that from the hero, assign this into these values. So assign the ID into the ID value and assign the name into the name value. If you've never seen the underscore before in that sense, what this means, this is basically a convention that we're saying that assign the name to nothing. I don't care about it. If you add an underscore in front of a variable name or just an underscore itself, it's like you're telling the compiler, ignore this, I know. And since this is not an object but just a value, it can be forgotten, dropped. So after we get the ID, we specifically call the object.delete function from the object module, the delete function, and provide the ID. After that, this is the way to actually delete an object on a test. After that, we consume the test by this test.end function, and we have consumed both the test, consumed/destroyed the hero, and we are done. Let's go ahead and run this test and see how we can do that. Make sure to navigate into B1, then into basic move. In order to run the test, let's first build. Let's go Sui move build to build the page. Right, no issues, all green. Let's now run our test. This Sui move test command basically runs all the tests that you have. If you specifically want to run only one test, you can provide the name like so. So Sui move test mint, which is my name. of the function here. Okay, we have one unused, this is a warning, not an error, because this is unused yet, but we will use it on the next test, so ignore this for now. But we see that the test passed. Let's say that we add another O here, right? This is not the actual hero that we created. We are searching for something different. Let's now rerun the test. Let's see the result. The assertion failed. Which assertion failed? Assertion with the code of 111. Let's say that I had a big file and I would go like 111. I'm straight headed to this assertion. Do you see now why these error codes are needed? Because I know that this error failed, it has a specific error code, and I see that test was not expected to error, but it aborted with code 111, blah, blah, blah. So I search for this error code, and I know that this assertion failed. Of course, it should have failed, because the names are different. If I revert it to how it was, with one less O, and rerun the test, I see that it will pass. So I tested my min function both through the happy path and the unhappy path. Makes sense? Pretty straightforward? Great. Last concept of today is basically the drop ability. And we'll see that through a test. Quick recap, we said that if a struct does not have the drop ability, it cannot just be ignored. You saw that hero, test scenario, both of these types do not have the drop ability. So our compiler was complaining, you cannot end the function before you consume this. This is not the case for structs who have the drop ability. For example, I am a game developer and I want to create a scenario where my player picks up an insignificant weapon, and I don't care if they just drop it at any time. You can mint new ones, create it, drop it, forget it, whatever. So I know to explicitly add the drop ability. We will see how the compiler assists us through that. Let's see. Let's start with the creation of the other test that we have, test drop semantics. You will notice here that I will not even begin a test scenario, and I will not end a test scenario like we did on line 28 and line 36, because I will not need anything from the test scenario like the context, because this would not be a test that you would have in your tests for your smart contracts. These tests only exist here so that I can teach you guys the concept of drop. So this is not a typical test, but let's go ahead. Let's call the constructor of insignificant weapon. We need to provide a power, so let's see 10. Remember what I previously said, this is what the compiler suggests. In this test, we want to showcase that since the insignificant weapon type has the drop ability, I can just start and end the test function without consuming it. So the compiler tells me, consider removing it or prefix it with an underscore. Remember? So if I just do this, the compiler will no longer give me an issue. See, I can run this test, it's all good. I created an insignificant weapon, I assigned it on insignificant weapon, this is the variable name basically, and I have no errors. My test goes just fine. If I was to remove the droppability, look, the local variable still contains a value. I think you get it by now. If it has a droppability, it can just be ignored. It can be ignored and it can be overwritten. Let's say that I declare a mutable insignificant weapon 2. And then I reassign the value of insignificant weapon 2. Still no issues. What I did in the next few lines is I'm saying that, okay, now create another insignificant weapon, hold it inside insignificant weapon 2, and then change its value because I am calling create insignificant weapon once again, and I am assigning it on insignificant weapon 2. This is only allowed because it has the droppability. It is dropping the previous value and it is assigning the new value. Once again, this would fail if we did not have the droppability. And as a last thing, I think you get this by now, but as a last thing, I will really quickly create another struct. This time, not an insignificant weapon, but just a weapon that does not have the droppability, and we'll see how the compiler handles this. Copy a constructor, but now this time for the weapon, not a significant weapon. New struct called weapon, new constructor called create weapon. Pretty straightforward, it returns a weapon. You see now, I cannot just end the function. Like, if this was line 49, we would just be able to end the function. Now, since the weapon here does not have the droppability, once again, I am told that I need to consume it. It still contains a value. Like we did before, we can just destroy it. Since this, as you see here, we did not have an ID for this weapon. It just has some fields. In cases where you don't have IDs in your structs, so guys, this is not an NFT. This is a struct that only lives inside this piece of code, right? It doesn't have a key ability, so an ID. This is not an NFT, but it still needs to be consumed. In cases like that, you can just go ahead and destroy it by using this destroy function. If this was an object on chain, we would need to do the exact same thing. Deconstruct it and specifically delete the ID. Since it's not an object on chain, just a struct, we can just call the destroy function. That's basically it for today. I think we have some time for questions. I will do a quick recap on what we saw, and then I will leave some time for questions. Regarding the move code, we see that we are importing some modules like string, for example. We are importing some modules like test scenario. We are importing some functions like destroy. We have here our structs, hero, weapon, and insignificant weapon. Insignificant weapon has drop, meaning that it can just be ignored. It can be dropped. Weapon does not, so it needs to be consumed. Our constructors, and basically our tests here showing how we can assert some fields, and here testing the drop semantics. Any questions? Are these clear? If they are not, please tell me, because we'll need these concepts in the following days. Are they clear? Give me a thumbs up if it's clear. Nice, nice, nice. Any questions? If there are not any questions, we'll go ahead and have our final quiz for today. We'll end on a game, and I'll leave you guys to go rest. Is that okay? Nice. Thank you for your attention. You're lovely. I remind you, if you did not get the time to code along with us, you can find the solution to every material on, for example, for this one, on B1 Solution Brands. This is a bigger test, quiz, 22 questions. It's everybody's game, and you remember you have gifts, right? So do your best. You can bounce back even if you miss some questions. This is pretty big. Also, because we will have some snippets of code in this quiz, make sure to look at either your laptops or your phones to get the entire question if you cannot read it from here. I will share the link once again on Telegram and on the screen. Come on, let's get started. Woohoo! Please remind me who were our previous 3 winners of earlier quiz. Raise your hand, the top 3 participants other than William. 1, 2, and who was the third? Sorry? Oh, he's not here. It's okay. Let's see if we have the same winners or different folks take the first 3 places. We'll wait till we're about like 20, 21. The folks who are listening to us online can also join, of course. Ready? Do I press the start button? Do I have your attention? Ready to crush this? Three, two, one, go. Go. I said go. If you get this wrong, I will cry. Good job, good job. Of course, Sui is not a programming language, guys. It's Move. Move is the name of our programming language. It's called Move. Sui is the blockchain. Good job, everyone. I'm Dio, I'm from Miston Labs, remember? Remember, fast answers get more points. For easy questions, make sure to be fast. Absolutely, Rust-like. Interesting question. Let's see your answers. The answer is indeed asset management. The contracts themselves are not responsible for the network's security. The validators and the code that is run on the validators is basically what's responsible for the network security. The smart contracts are also code that is executed and that is run on the validators, but meant basically for asset management. We have a new first place. Woo. Build from scratch for scalability. Not for low throughput, it would be for high throughput, right? Basically, you probably missed this word, high throughput. object composability, meaning combining objects basically. Amazing, good job everyone. From earlier today, that's correct. On to the next one. Sequential processing of unrelated data. Remember, this is a characteristic of yesterday's blockchains. Good job, everyone. On to the next one. We have quite a few more, 12 more. Most of you got this correct, of course, to check and sign transactions. Next one. Good job. Absolutely. Since this is an object, a coin is an object that lives on chain, it has to have an ID. So even from that, you would be able to exclude any of the others. Remember, if it's an object that lives on chain, it should have a unique ID. And of course, coins live on chain, right? Remember, shared objects is the less fast path where we are touching, let's say, either reading or writing or using in any way an object that is not owned by anybody, but it's shared to the network. So that means that it needs to pass through consensus. Only owned objects go through the fast path. Let me see your guesses. We did not use the transfer function just yet, but what do you think it does? Correct. Makes sense. Next one. That's right. Consensus is basically the agreement amongst the validators. Congratulations. It indeed is simple and intuitive programming. We saw how the compiler helps us and how everything makes sense. Congrats, everybody got this right. Few more questions, 4 more questions. Do your best, guys. Almost at the finish line. Yesterday's smart contract languages, a limitation limited code composition and reuse. We do many of these, but the word is prioritize. What is prioritized? Yeah, most of you got this right. Asset management. As we saw with Move and Sui, objects are like first-class citizens. They live on your wallet, not inside a smart contract, like, for example, in other smart contract languages. 2 more. Actually, 3 more. One, this and 2 more. We did not see this, but guess. The majority of you got this correct. We did not see the pay function in Move just yet, but we added this question because we wanted to show you that then even the names of the functions basically most of the times explain what you are about to do. So you transfer assets with a pay function. Also, you can do that through the client. Sui client pay and transfer the assets. We have 2 more questions. Ready? Sort of a trick question, do you think? Let's see. But most of you did not fall for the trick. You got this correct. Of course, immutable objects, like for example our contracts, are read-only, meaning you cannot change them, right? They are immutable. Last question. The correct answer is users have direct control over their assets. I see some of you answered assets are managed by smart contracts. Is it the first one? Yes, 7 of you answered that assets are managed by smart contracts. Basically, we saw that, remember the example, yesterday smart contract languages versus Move. Now the assets are directly owned by the users. So 2 is correct. Let's see the results. Let's end. Woohoo, congrats. Who are our winners? Who are our winners? Those 3. Okay, good job, guys. Thank you for paying attention, and thank you to everyone for attending this bootcamp. I hope you learned stuff even from day 1. We have so much more to learn in the upcoming days, some more advanced concepts, I want you to feel free to stop me at any time. As you see, even today, we have some minutes to spare, right? And the next days we have a bit of a more packed schedule, so maybe we don't have that much time to spare. But always we will have time for your questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. I want to know that if we're moving forward, you understand everything. Is that okay? Thank you very much for today. We'll see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow, right? Thank you. Can I ask you something, William? Where did you buy this from? That's
one?
super cool. I want to buy one too.
This one I buy on Shopee.
Shopee?
Yeah.
What, can you send me a link?
Okay. I will send you. I bought it
That's so
a
useful.
long time ago. Here's the things. It's not had a brand name.
Sorry?
It's not from any brand. It's like in LG or Samsung manufacturer. They have some monitor that's not very quality as they want, so they skip it.
Okay.
And this skip it. Another worker collect it.
How much did you?
This one is around one. I remember this. I bought this around $150.
150 USD.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, yeah, it's good.
It's 2K 144 refresh rate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what. And you can drag it on your computer. Is
Can I check the barcode?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Và anh em nha, có gì mai gặp lại anh em.